Hey guys, this is Ramon again with Bold Like a Leopard. I want to welcome you to another session. Probably not going to take long today. I might make it a little longer by continuing tomorrow night. Analyzing a network that's getting a little more popular now. I don't know how far their reach is, but I think that they have the hundreds of thousands of viewers, and they're called The Real News, or The Real News Network, I think sometimes they go by. And they're out of Baltimore, and they have a few interesting videos, but their videos are pretty biased on the left-wing side. Not that that's a thing that you have to. I mean, people have a right to express themselves any way they want. We can have, by virtue of this platform, I can present to you my views about Obamacare, about the single-payer health care, which I oppose both of them. I can present to you my views on any subject that I have a controversial opinion on. If I disagree with global warming, for example, I'm able to disseminate those views freely. But by the same token, I can be called out if somebody sees something that I said that is untrue or dishonest. They have every right and indeed the power now, because of YouTube and because of other forums that are related to YouTube, to basically call me out and give their own rejoinder to anything that is said on the internet. So the Real News is trying to present itself as the unadulterated progressive news network of the opposition to Donald Trump, but also to the Democratic Party, which I think is a very interesting phenomenon. I think there you can only be admiring at least of their desire, and I'll get to the video in a few seconds. But people are tired of being lied to, and although I think that they're lying to themselves with their own philosophy, because I'm philosophically pretty much as far on the other end of the spectrum as you can get. The least they can do is try to overcome the lies that are being fed to them in their own institution. So I'm going to start the video, and we are going to be discussing a couple people here. And I'm going to be introducing them throughout the video with my own interpretation and positions on them. So without further ado, here it is. This is the Nina Turner Show. The episode is called No Is Not Enough with Naomi Klein. Now, we're not going to go through the entire video again. I'm going to be picking out excerpts, but I will post a link to the video so you can check out yourself. Make sure I didn't take anything out of context, which is apparently what, whenever one of us does something, does any video, they always say you take me out of context. If I post the whole video, you can see the context yourself. So here you go.
Let's get down to the real business of taking care of the people.
We can't have a testimony without a test. And we are being tested whether we have courage enough, conviction enough, people power enough to stand up and do what is right for ourselves and generations yet unborn. Come on.
Okay, so introducing this lady, Nina Turner, and I hope the echo isn't as bad as it usually is in the videos. I'm trying to adjust the volumes. It's not easy for me. If somebody could post for me, please, advice on a capture program that reduces that, or some way to deal with that on video, I'd be very much in gratitude. So, who's Nina Turner? Nina Turner is actually a former state assemblywoman or state senator from Ohio, pretty close to I actually know people from her district. And she was surrogate for Bernie Sanders in 2016. From my memory of her, she was one of the few Democrats that wasn't basically bought and sold by the Democratic machine, which is why she didn't endorse Hillary Clinton. But it wasn't just the issue of the Democrats nationally. The Democrats in Ohio have been a complete clusterfuck since 2010, when the governor Ted Strickland he had his ass whooped by John Kasich, who if you've been following national politics, is not exactly a world beater himself. So Strickland gets his ass whooped by Kasich, and since then the Democratic Party in Ohio has been in complete free fall. The only statewide election that they've won since then was not really a statewide election. It was the vote in 2012 for president, which of course went to Barack Obama. Everything else, they've basically been just total trash. You know, we're going to have a governor's race next year. I'm interested to see who they put up then. It might be Nina Turner. You know, it could be her. So Nina Turner is, she's now going to be the head of Our Revolution, which is Bernie Sanders' weird nonprofit agency or organization that was formed after the election. Okay, and she's going to be the head of that, and I believe that she is going to be used and abused and then tossed out like the rest of them by the real powers behind that movement, which are fundraisers. You know, I could be wrong. I think that she is well intentioned. She's very you know, unlike other politicians that are from this area of the country, she does have this ability to be emotive. She's you know, there's a lot of congressmen here that are basically you know, talking suits. There's a guy who ran for governor in Ohio in 2014. His name was Ed Fitzgerald. The guy was retarded, basically. He had an expired driver's license. He insisted that in all official documents, the G in Fitzgerald would be capitalized. Otherwise, they were null and void. So people saw he was a pretentious dickhead. So I think he recorded like 32% in the governor's race, which in Ohio, that kind of was a swing, even though now we consider Ohio has kind of swung a little to the right, but you know, 32% is pretty pathetic. I think it's also because nobody voted in that election, because everybody was like, yeah, this turd isn't even worth voting for. It's not like they liked the other guy. They just thought, it's like, who the fuck is this idiot? So Nina Turner, we'll see in a couple minutes her opinions and who she's talking to.
I'm mad that we gotta beg people in power to know that the wages of everyday people are not keeping up with inflation. I'm mad as hell that our young people have to graduate with a degree in one hand and debt in the other, over $1 trillion worth of debt. I'm mad as hell that we gotta beg.
Well, the people that should be mad are their parents that sent them to shit colleges to get shit degrees that are not useful, like communications. And, you know, now they talk about gender studies, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of degrees that are more useless than gender studies, or just as useless. I don't know about more useless, but anyway, yeah, and stop taking so many student loans out. That's another piece of advice I would give. I only took about $18,000 of student loans out.
People to understand that we must protect Mother Earth to have anything. Oh yeah, I'm mad. I'm mad that my sisters and brothers on the south side of Chicago, with a Democrat in power, just say ouch if it hurts. That mamas and daddies and grandmamas have to worry about whether or not their babies can walk the streets in America.
Okay, so you can tell that she's not afraid of, you know, calling out the Democrats themselves. But what are some of the, so who's she talking to here? Let's fast forward a little.
Chicago, Chi-Town, with the amazing Naomi Klein. We are at the People's Summit 2017. What brings you to the People's Summit this year?
Well, I think we need spaces.
So Naomi Klein, it always, you know, Naomi Klein, that's a Jewish name. I'm Jewish, and let me tell you something. I'm pissed off. about these turncoat motherfucking asshole people in my community that are trading us in. They're basically representing for the communists, and you know, I'm not gonna stop calling them out because they call me out. They called me out, and they're always willing to stab us in the back and fuck us over, the regular Jewish people, the silent majority, in my opinion. Or it doesn't matter if we're the majority or not, but we're the ones that are secure in our identity. These are the ones that their identity is a bunch of fucking bagels and lox, or they're too ashamed and insecure to actually get in touch with what it actually means to be Jewish, to really learn what the religion is about. And their entire identity denies the fact that it's a religion, because if it was a religion, then it would imply that there's something that they have to do in order to be a part of it. Well, all they want to do is bitch and complain and whine, and that's not really part of the religion. Although if you read about the Exodus from Egypt and the journey through the desert, it kind of is. But as more of a cautionary tale, bitching and whining is not the way that we were taught to relate to the world like this bitch does. So a little info on this bitch. Naomi Klein is a Canadian author, social activist, and filmmaker known for her political analyses and criticism of corporate globalization and of capitalism. You can see a picture of her and her whiny face. And, you know, she works for... she won the Sydney Peace Prize, which, by the way, awarded a Peace Prize this year to Black Lives Matter, an organization that has gotten into a conflict with pretty much everybody, including people running around with rainbow flags at parades. So, you know, fuck you, Sydney Peace Prize. We don't give a fuck about your... Let's actually read about what the Sydney Peace Prize... Who, you know, the University of Sydney, blah, blah, blah. They're you know, they have this, okay, Desmond Tutu, that's okay. Hanan Ashrawi, Palestinian academic and human rights leader. Let's see some more. Hans Blix, chairman of the UN Weapons of Mass Destruction Commission. Talk about getting a prize for doing nothing. Noam Chomsky. Naomi Klein and Black Lives Matter. So she was, to give you, I mean, this is, you basically have to be a useless turd or Nelson Mandela. Or, sorry, Desmond Tutu. You either have to be one of the more visible anti-apartheid activists the world over, or a piece of shit like Naomi Klein in order to win this award, or Noam Chomsky, another turncoat piece of shit. So yeah, I'm pretty biased on this topic. You know, as far as I'm concerned, fuck her. Nina Turner's okay, by the way. I said at the beginning, I actually respect her. I don't respect this bitch. So what's the impression that Naomi Klein and Nina Turner have of America? Well, they make it pretty plain that they don't think things are going so rosy. Let's start over here.
Of this moment, right, is that this current system that we are in has reached crisis levels on so many fronts. Inequality is at crisis levels. Systemic racism, gender exclusion, and misogyny.
But did we just get there, Naomi? I mean, weren't we at crisis level 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 50 years ago?
This has been a process, but I think that Trump in the White House has...
So I have to credit Nina Turner for, you know, pointing back at the fact that how can you claim right now the United States is at a crisis level? And I'm going to add something too. This is the same outlet that doesn't think that Venezuela's been at a crisis level. So they're claiming that America is at a crisis level, but they're talking about a country that's basically bankrupt. It's selling off all of its foreign currency reserves. Venezuela, they don't consider that crisis level. but they consider, notice she said misogyny and racism, they're at crisis levels. I would say that misogyny and racism were at crisis levels in the 50s. I'd say that they were, but the United States wasn't collapsing in the 50s or the 60s. It was a crisis level. First of all, those are things that, how do you quantify what a crisis level is for either of those, misogyny and whatever? But just because, I mean, if you're a total bitch and can't take criticism, then I guess crisis levels are achieved all the time because you're such a petulant child that you think that people, calling you out for being the bitch that you are is a crisis for you. That's really the problem. So it's not that America is at a crisis level. It's that whiny fucking morons that have never done anything important in their lives, they're suddenly realizing that nobody's listening to them anymore.
Mad, the mask is off.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it, right? That this was a
Here's some technical difficulties here.
This has been a long time coming. The building blocks for this were laid not just by the Republicans, but also by the Democrats. This is a kind of a culmination. The mask is off. There's no intermediary. It's a corporate coup, is the way I see this, right? There's no longer any pretext that it's anything but what it is. This cabinet of millionaires and billionaires, and just the worst that this culture can produce is in charge.
Is there?
But on the other hand, there is the fact that 13 million people voted for Bernie Sanders, that he carried more than 20 states, that in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn just defied all the pundits, ran on this hopeful.
So you have somebody here, and this is why I hate her, and I hate everything she stands for. She knows, she's not too dumb to know that Bernie Sanders carrying 13 states or however many it was in the Democratic primary, it was not enough to actually win the nomination. And that truly, the progressive movement has to, they've come to a fork in the road here. Either they have to go out and become independent of the Democratic Party. So I got to adjust the camera here. But either they have to go out and become independent of the Democratic Party and actually strike out on their own, or they have to take the lead from the corporate whores, because they're not going to succeed as part of the Democratic Party. I'm not going to say that because I'm saying that, oh, Bernie couldn't get elected or whatever. I do believe that. I believe that he's a complete clusterfuck of a failure. But, when you're talking relatively, he did pretty well, because there were other progressive candidates in the past that didn't do nearly as well. Dennis Kucinich didn't do nearly as well as Bernie Sanders. And I think that the more they tie themselves down to the Democratic Party, the more we're just going to see disappointment after disappointment out of the progressive movement. They're already complaining that the state of California, which is dominated by progressive politicians, has backed off on approving a single-payer healthcare system. So the other problem is that she goes and praises this Jeremy Corbyn fucktard over in England, this total Islamic apologist and communist. She praises him, even though she, as a Jewish person, she knows that he's tolerated blatant, naked anti-Jewish rhetoric in the Labor Party. So she doesn't have a problem with that. And everybody knows that the Labour Party has become just a clearinghouse for Muslim extremism now in the UK, and it's basically an alliance. It's an intersectional alliance between communism and Islamism. That's what she's supporting. So I don't have any sympathy for her. In fact, I hope that she will live to see the day when the results of her horrible ideology come to bear fruit. I'm hoping that doesn't happen to everybody. But I'm hoping that she sees when she gets disowned by these communists, these nutless communists, that they just pray for acceptance from minorities, that they will eventually disown her just like everybody else.
Partially underwater, and what is happening? There's a meeting in Washington at the Heritage Foundation. The Republican Study Group has convened all of the right-wing think tanks and all the most right-wing lawmakers, and they come up with a list, their wish list, of what they call free market solutions to Hurricane Katrina. Privatize the school system, get rid of public housing, tax-free, free enterprise zone. Just use this tragedy, the fact that the residents of that city have been boarded at gunpoint and scattered throughout, given one-way tickets. I mean, I don't need to tell you the story, right?
Yeah.
And to say, well, this is a good time to privatize the school system, right? So
it's ironic that she's complaining that Republicans are using Hurricane Katrina for political purposes. I remember that Kanye West said that Katrina is proof that George Bush hates black people. I remember that Katrina was used heavily by Democrats to attack the Bush administration, even though the governor of Louisiana at the time was a Democrat. I think it was Mary Landrieu. And, you know, they just, for them, every fucking tragedy is a political. The Grenfell Towers thing, the Real News just did a special on the Grenfell Tower fire in Britain, a British tragedy, in order to attack conservatism over there. So when it's convenient for them to attack using a personal tragedy, then it's fine. Then that's them being empathetic and good to. Here's the solution, okay? Privatization is a solution for many of these issues. New Orleans, way before Hurricane Katrina, was a shitty school district that people were running away from. Nobody wants to be in a school district where you have these chicken shit teachers, these liberal fucking teachers, basically promoting multiculturalism and failure among the poorest people in the country. That's how we got to where it is. So, and this low-income housing is a disaster in this country, because you're basically offering space in these monolithic hellholes to poor people. And I'm not doing, you know what? The fact is that people were living before public housing, and they were living before public schools. And I'm not saying that we should eliminate public schools. Public housing, I think, is a joke anyway. But throughout the world, I think the United States is one of the least school freedom, it has some of the least liberal policies in terms of schools that there is. And by liberal, I mean that allowing for more freedoms. I'm not talking about, politically liberal. We have a system where children in many of these districts, they're not afforded any recourse if their school is a complete pile of dog shit. And what is the democratic and progressive answer to that? Throw more money at the schools. Throw more money at the schools. That's their solution to everything. They don't want to hold anybody accountable except the corporations and the working people. Okay, they want to blame the people that are not responsible at all for this. And that's the pattern that they're not going to stop the pattern. They may be claiming that they're going to do a progressive revolution within the Democrats or within politics in general, promote a real progressive agenda. It's the same agenda. I'm sorry to tell you. It's the same agenda that promotes government takeovers of everything, and it's not going to work because technology is making it such that the government will eventually either completely abuse these technologies and use them to further their control over humankind, or the individual, the American public, is going to use them to defy the government, and in which case it's a chicken or egg argument. Who's going to, who creates the real power? Is it the public or is it the government? Does the government derive its power from the people, or do the people derive their power from the government? In their minds, we're powerless unless the government gives us power. That's really her message here. It's not in order to empower people. It's in order to tell people that their power is derived from the government. Let's go to the part where they start talking a little about Obama and the financial crisis. And I'm going to dissect a little of their, maybe they had a little of it right, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about in the general sense.
To me, it is 2009. Obama had the electoral mandate.
It is 2009. Obama had the electoral mandate.
He did.
More than the electoral mandate, he had three of the most powerful economic engines in his hands: the banks, the car companies, and he had an $800 billion stimulus bill to write. But the constraints of neoliberalism carried the day, right? They just wanted to get rid of the auto companies. They didn't want to think, well, maybe they should be making public transit or electric cars, or if they've failed, maybe we could change them.
Build our infrastructure. So many places in the United States, we don't have good rail systems, let alone high-speed rail. And our sisters and brothers all over the world, places like China, this is, I hate to use the word foreign, but it's just unthinkable that a nation like the United States of America would not make more investment in rail systems. And
these ladies don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yes.
Automakers cannot just switch over to public transit. It takes years and years to plan. Often one line of automotives. Imagine how hard it is also for buses and trains and whatever. These things don't happen overnight. So when Obama bailed out the automakers, I think he did make a mistake. What really should have been done was to say to them, you guys are just going to have to sell off all of your shares to other automakers, which is what happened with Chrysler. And I think it's, as much as it's weird to see that Chrysler is owned by Fiat, an Italian company that is, they make shitty cars themselves. That's the way to do it. You can't just have the government take over an automotive company, which is what I think that they're trying to say. They did take over, I believe, GM and fired the board. But how good has GM been since then? It's not been that good. And then they're complaining about the banks and whatever. Sure, yeah, I agree with you. They should have just allowed the banks to go through structured bankruptcies. I don't think that that's really the problem. But to start saying that we need public transit and high-speed rail and all that, and to compare us to China, okay, fine. What does China have that we don't have? They have basically no environmental quality laws. They just pollute as much as you want, put as much smog in the atmosphere as you want. We're fine. Fuck it. We'll basically and every other metric that we think is important now by liberal standards, animal rights, everything. There's dog killing and eating festivals over there. This isn't a racism thing. That's the way that it is over there. That's the way it is. And if you want us to be more like China and take these massive projects, which by the way are not going to benefit China in the long run, then you should start America-China party or something like that. You should start all these liberals are now criticizing China all the time for its capitalist policies. Now apparently they want to mimic them. Okay, the conversation gets a little weird when Klein and Turner start talking about the environment and things like that. I'll try to include as much as possible without going too long, because it's basically a bunch of gibberish. but here goes.
You can't say, well, first we'll save the planet and, then we'll worry about putting food on the table or, stopping police violence. Like, that's madness. That's how you build a very homogenous movement, right? So the task is, how do we design and fight for integrated policies and solutions? So it is possible to change our energy system so that the people who are most economically excluded, whose kids have the highest asthma rates, who are dealing with cancer clusters because their bodies have borne the toxic burden of the addiction to fossil fuel, are first in line to own and control their own clean energy cooperatives, right? So this is kind of energy reparations. It's not just
reparations for what? Reparations for, well, actually, she does go into it a little.
It's energy democracy, so you have a fair economy, but you bake the justice in, right?
And so we can do it all.
We can do it all, and this is what really excites me. And so I think that there's been some wonderful talk about intersectionality and silo busting, and it's. I think everybody is there, certainly at the summit here, understanding.
These women have got to. I mean, you can clearly see, and Nina Turner, I mean, there's only so much I can respect her for. The most I can respect her for is because she doesn't own into the, or doesn't buy into the whole corporate Democrat line. But beyond that, who the fuck believes in energy reparations? I mean, the idea is that we need to create an energy infrastructure that's independent of foreign domination, but also doesn't pollute the environment too much. And what they're bringing forward doesn't really have anything to do with, a real energy vision. They're not proposing alternative forms of energy. And in fact, the left has done very little to actually develop those. If you're not involved in the actual energy sector of the economy, then basically everything you're complaining about is nonsense. Nobody's listening to you. They're basically responding to the demands of the market. Okay, over here I think that they get into the kind of nitty-gritty in terms of workers' issues, but I'll try to point out a little contradiction in what they're saying.
But fighting to have free time.
Yes. Quality of life.
Yeah. I mean, people are fighting so hard to have work.
Yes.
That we can sometimes forget that that work's not all we are. And so.
But some people believe, Naomi, that poor people shouldn't have quality of life. They shouldn't be able to take a vacation every now and then. They shouldn't have downtime with their kids because wealth affords you all of those luxuries, and that poor people, I mean, just work, right? The working poor, they work, and they never take the time to get to be introspective.
Yeah. The memory that working class struggles fought for bread and roses, and for the right to weekends and the right to free time, and for all we need. And so, we don't learn this stuff in school. That's stamped out. But the thing that really inspired me about Jeremy Corbyn's campaign, right, is that when you put these ideas out there in the culture, people are so attracted to them, and particularly young.
Jeremy Corbyn has been a politician since the early 80s. He's never owned a business. He's never had to hire anybody. He's basically a welfare queen. And so are the people that are listening to people like him. That they just want the government to do the work for them. And as for this issue of whether poor people should take vacations, I think it's not a matter of whether you're poor or you're rich. It's a matter of whether you have the money in the bank to take time off from work and be able to balance the rest of your checkbook. I haven't taken a vacation probably since I was 15. Well, maybe I took one. I'm not going to say that. Probably since I was 20. So these women are delusional, okay? Nobody's saying that they shouldn't be able to take vacations. We're saying that you should either work to get into a career where you can be able to balance your work-life load or not. And I can tell you personally that the people that take the most vacations that I know are often people that have the most reason to. I had a manager who was, she would work some days like 15 hours, all meetings and whatever, talking to people and, mapping out the trajectory of our system in terms of the design and approval process, and having to monitor all of these various different aspects of it. It was mind-blowing. I know for a fact I couldn't do the same job as her, and I think it's fine. I was fine with her taking vacations every once in a while. First of all, she did have kids, and she was probably 20 years older than me. I don't work there anymore. Greatest boss that I've had personally, and that's the way it is. If you're somebody who's willing to go and commit yourself to all that extra hassle and stress, which is what people in upper levels of management or even middle levels of management do, then yes, I think that you should have a vacation. And that's my personal opinion. I think that these women don't know what the hell they're talking about in terms of the poor. Okay, if you're down in the dumps and you literally have a low level of income, then how is taking off more time from work going to bring you out of that situation? There's no reason people would pay you more in order to do less work and not be there. So it's a put up or shut up situation. That's about it for today. I think there's plenty of people that will probably disagree with my opinion on the real news networks coverage of events like these. But look, I come here to give you a perspective that is, transparent and, matching the ideals that I believe in. And I think that they try to as well. But which side do you think is really going to lead to people being more successful? The ones that are always complaining and don't have the real answers and are constantly claiming that America is in a crisis situation, or the ones that are proposing solutions? I think under Obama, America was in a crisis situation in many respects. I think he brought race relations to an all-time low. I thought he brought manufacturing into peril. I think he regulated many industries almost to a fatal situation. But we've always been proposing alternatives in order to bring America back to a functional state of affairs. So anyway, have a great night. This is Bold Like a Leopard, and I'll be monitoring some more of the stories from this network. I don't think I'm going to make this a permanent series, but a lot of interesting stories coming out of there. Have a great night and stay bold, everybody.